You're listening to the Insurance Podcast from Insurtech Connect 2024, recorded live in Las Vegas, Nevada. Brought to you by First Insurance Funding, the innovator in payment solutions.
Hey, we're really excited to sit down here with Steve Johnson, who is the co-founder or founder and head of product for Insured.io. So Steve, thanks for sitting down with us, and tell us a little bit about ITC so far for you.
Yeah, I mean, thanks for having me. Well, I don't think it'll be any surprise since we're having this on the midway through the last day that it's been exhausting.
Yeah, a lot of steps and a bit of a husky voice.
Yeah, no, I definitely closed all my rings yesterday, but no, it's been really good. It's been really busy. We've got a team here who's been just doing a great job, taking meetings all over the place, and just being here. And
nice.
it does take it out of you a little bit.
ITC,
yeah,
being here is
Just
part
being
of it.
here,
Yeah.
surviving.
Being here, yeah.
It's a marathon,
That sums
not
it
a
up.
sprint. So let's talk a little bit about what you guys are doing as you come to market and what you're trying to get out of ITC and those relationships. Obviously, you're focused on helping carriers deliver a better customer experience and helping them get products to market. What are some of the things you're trying to rustle up and get people aware of when it comes to your company and offerings?
So I think what's really important is how much the concept of customer experience has changed in the last few years, and that things that were considered features a few years ago, like a nice to have, has become just table stakes for all those involved. We did a survey this year that said that your customer experience and your user experience is as important as your brand when it comes to purchasing insurance. And that's a pretty crazy statistic to find out. Rating and coverages and pricing is of course at the top, but when you start thinking about that people are shopping customer experience now, and that it's so important in the Amazon age, and when Domino's can tell you where your pizza is at any given point, that if you're still kind of playing catch up to that, you need to catch up much faster. And that's really what we're trying to talk about, is make sure that you're communicating with your insureds the way they want to communicate with you.
Steve, that's interesting, and I think that what we've noticed here, just sort of staying on the vibe of the conference and what goes on, is how this event, go back pre-COVID, sort of in the 2019 when we first came as an MGM Grand, everybody was going to disrupt the industry. Like it was going to, we're going to get rid of agents and brokers. We're going to sell direct. We're going to, we'll do it all online. That type of stuff. And today, you walk through this trade show and you see that the agent broker network, it's healthy. We're getting a lot of traction still. Customers like that experience, like you described. Insurers have changed and pivoted their experience as well along the way with tools and such. What do you guys find in that sort of going up to 35,000 feet, kind of looking at it as an industry, not just for yourselves, but sort of on the whole? What do you see sort of taking shape as far as some of these, call it startup disruptors, and then the legacy guys that have been around for a while? How are they all fitting together?
Well, look, so I've been in insurance for a really long time. I started as a personal lines underwriter before I was old enough to drink. So I've seen a lot of the industry from all sides well before I got into tech. And I completely agree with you. There are a lot of people out there that are attempting to disrupt the insurance industry. I will say, and this might be a little bit blasphemous, I don't know that all aspects of the insurance industry need disruption. I think it needs innovation, I think it needs improvement, and I think it needs a lot of people coming in trying to make a difference with how insurance works. But I don't think it needs the game to be changed. I mean, we've seen over the last few years, there's been a lot of different technologies that are coming up. You may or may not have been talking about AI all day, all week, a little bit.
Just a little.
And where we are, especially with legacy insurers, is, they're not going to transform their entire organization, certainly not overnight, and certainly not quickly either. But what they need to do is they need to have the tools to be able to improve and compete with all of these modern insurtechs that are launching, that are out there, and be able to provide as good of a, and I'll talk about customer experience, as good of a customer experience as these guys. But you don't want to, like rip and replace your whole core system. You don't want to rebuild. All these guys went through a digital transformation like 5 years ago because that was the big thing.
Go to Guidewire.
Why do we got to do it again, and why do we have to do it every 5 years in order to compete? Like I don't. So we work with a lot of legacy insurers, and that's one of the number one things that they're afraid about, is that I'm going to have to dismantle my system that's working for a new system that may not.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the new system may not work in the way you want it to work, because out of the box doesn't mean it's going to fit into the box you want to put it in.
Yes.
It's a big issue. So let's get into customer experience. What are the insights that you're seeing that customers want as insurers when they come to buying insurance, and that experience, whether it be before they buy, when they enter the thought of being in market for insurance, and to how they want to actually use their insurance product once they have it or have purchased it?
So really, I mean, the most important thing, and it seems simple, but it's simplicity. It's a streamlined experience. It's not overcomplicating the insurance process, which is already overcomplicated enough. Most people don't understand insurance at all to any degree. Like, look at a Twitter thread where somebody asks a question about getting in an auto accident, and you'll find 100 different responses of 100 wrong answers with what they should do. Making the process simple, streamlined, and making sure that all channels that you're communicating with your insureds work together, provide the same and accurate information, really is the most important thing. I mean, when we talk about how you do it, I mean, mobile is the most important. You have to be mobile, not only mobile friendly, you have to design for mobile. You have to make sure that you are providing options that a person with a cell phone can use regardless of the line of business, because I mean, 87% of our users across all lines of business only use their phone to interact with their policy. I'm not sure that a lot of people even have a desktop computer anymore. You know, I certainly do. I was a developer for a very long time, but it turns out that a lot of people are not interacting with their policy on a computer at all anymore. And that's different than it was even when we, first started our platform in 2019, those numbers were in the 60s. And is it going to be 100% in 2 years? Well, that's the way the curve is shaping up.
Yeah. Well, okay, so how do we get around the fundamental issue when it comes to consumers and insurance, and that they never want to think about their policy until they need to use it? Well, like, that's the part that I think, when we go back to the idea that we were going to, talked about earlier, that Kurt brought up, hey, technology is going to completely dismantle the agent broker model. No, it's not. They're back here bigger, better than ever. Yet we have this issue that insureds never want to deal with insurance. Think about it. How do we get them to sort of engage more with insurance so that they are making better and more informed decisions, which actually helps underwriting and helps the viability of the product?
So it's interesting because, and you're exactly right, most people have no interest in interacting with their insurance policy. And for many lines of business, there really isn't that big of an interaction that they have to do. And so you may not ever be able to get people to be excited about their insurance policy. You're not going to gamify insurance and have them log into it every day. What you do have is you have a certain number of opportunities to make a difference when you interact with your customer. Let's say it's an auto insurance policy. You have about 12 opportunities a year when they log in to make their payment monthly to make sure that they have a good experience. Homeowners might be once every 6 months. So if you only have that many chances to make a good impression, then you better be making an excellent impression. And that's across every way that your insured's gonna interact with you. And if you're doing that, you are going to get people not excited, but not upset with insurance. And certainly on the claim side of things, which is where most bad Yelp reviews of insurance companies come from. Nobody's leaving a Google rating for the quality of their underwriting, but they are certainly leaving a Google review when there's a bad claims experience. And if you've screwed up on your touch points leading up to that, and you drop the ball on claims, that policyholder's going to leave. They're never going to come back to you. So you have to take these small opportunities to make improvements, have a good experience, so that you don't lose the customer.
So through the life cycle, and it's sort of what Pete was alluding to, we manage policyholders in different ways. You talked about a claim, how they get managed through a claim process, different than sending them a renewal or collecting a payment. But for the most part, it's still a person-to-person industry. We may be communicating on different channels, an omni-channel type of environment, but we still need people. We're still seeing a massive shift of personnel. Like we're seeing the baby boomers retiring. You talked earlier about having been in the industry for a while. I think Pete and I beat you for gray hair, so congratulations.
You're still young.
Yeah, you're still good. You're good. And you're pulling off the white shoes way better than we can.
Thanks, guys.
But as we bring these new people in, they need to learn the systems. And it's not just here's the way we talk insurance. It's how we interact with people. Does your environment that you create help that process? And are you seeing a benefit to attracting more people into the industry by using a platform like yours, so that let's just say it's a cooler place to work if you guys are part of the environment?
So, and there's a couple of ways we can talk about this when we talk about people as well, because we talk about insurance companies consistently needing people.
Yeah.
One of the things that they need people for is customer service, and what you'll find out is there's a lot of people trying to automate customer service out of existence. But you are absolutely right. Insurance is a person-to-person industry.
It's a relationship thing.
And all this technology, any kind of automation, any kind of self-service, all has to be done in the service of augmenting the relationship that an insurer has with their insured and not replacing it. That will cause a shift in the industry in the wrong direction. So when you're providing automation opportunities so that people with easy questions or have easy tasks, I think our survey said like 80% of people want to do air quotes, routine tasks online, and that's making a payment, that's filing a claim, the basic things that they do, getting documents. They're actually not interested in talking to a person. But that leaves the 20% and the things that are not routine tasks, where you need to be able to service that customer better. And if you are in the game of just getting calls done fast, you're not providing a good relationship with your insured. You're not providing a good experience and a good place to work. And that's why having tools like this that augment the process rather than replacing the process makes it easier across the entire spectrum, from the insured to the insurer to anybody in customer service, to top level.
Mm-hmm. So, John, let's get into some of your tools. The chance to start, or Steve. Wow, why did I call you John?
Johnson.
Steve Johnson. Yeah, well, it's not the first time.
Admittedly, it's a common name.
Admittedly, it's a common name, and what you don't know is I am famous for screwing up every guest name. Like right at the start, like I should have called you John Stevenson. Yeah, exactly.
So you're fine.
Yeah. So John.
I appreciate it. As a person who doesn't remember anybody's name, we're on the same page.
That makes two of us. So.
He's
Steve,
wearing a name tag, though.
Yeah, and I know, I can see his name tag.
Yeah. But that's okay.
This is how we roll here. It's day 2 in Vegas. So give me a pass. So let's talk about a chance for you to sort of promote a little bit of what offerings you do in the marketplace, and what are some of these things that your company is bringing in to carriers to help them address these issues? Like what are you specifically providing them so that they can kind of address these challenges of what this augmented experience should be?
So really, there's a couple of channels in which an insured regularly interacts with their insurer, and that's through web or mobile, direct by logging into their policy. That's calling in over the phone with an IVR. That's text messaging, inbound and outbound, and that's the claims process for first notice of loss. And our omni-channel solution provides those individual touch points and these products as a way that you can drop on top of any core system, regardless of whether it was deployed in 1992 and it's an AS400 or whether it's a modern API-driven system. It's a solution to allow insurance companies to provide this experience, to be able to compete with these much larger, well-funded Insurtechs, and to quickly, easily, and without having to spend a year-long development cycle or try and decide what you think insureds want. And that's a big challenge on the business side of insurance is, okay, what do insureds want? And asking a bunch of executives in insurance may not know the answer. I live and breathe what insureds want, and so we tailor make our platform based on data, based on analysis, based on the changing environment so that it constantly adapts to new and modern needs so that it's never static. It's a stable system that's unstable. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. Hey, over the last 5-10 years, we've really watched a big M&A cycle happen. A lot of it, and we said it earlier about, the older brokers retiring and new ones coming in, and a lot of them are selling, and the buyers are consolidators. They're putting together larger and larger books of business, whether it's carriers, brokers, agents, and they're building these bigger entities that really have to think differently. It was different when the mom and pop office was in a community. They coached the hockey, the baseball, and all that stuff, and they knew everybody. So the CX was them, right?
Yeah.
And their involvement in what is the insurance community. Today, you've got these large organizations that are representing multiple brands across the various regions, and is it like almost to a point where we talked about carriers, but some of these agents and brokers, is the tail's wagging the dog. Like, these guys are getting bigger than some of the insurers in the sense that once you pile all together all their premiums, these are big operations today. How do you fit into sort of that ecosystem of dealing with some of these larger organizations that have CX problems? They're not really perfect at being big, but they are big because they had the money to do it. Private equity kind of created this situation.
Yeah.
And us as Canadians, we're seeing this, and it's causing customers to be upset. They're moving around. And I would think, though, that at the end of the day, these large players are going to find a solution. They're not idiots. They got to where they are because they're very smart people, and they pulled off a large number of purchases. Not easy to do. Pete and I both grew brokerages through acquisition. So there's got to be solutions to help that. And are you seeing that through your eyes?
Oh, yeah. So I have a great example of this that happened.
Right.
So a few years ago, we had a customer who had grown through acquisition, and they had acquired a lot over 5 years. They were bringing in MGAs and a variety of agencies. What they ended up with at the other end of that was 8 different core systems of multiple different generations that all had different policies from different states existing in these systems, but they were trying to build a single unified brand after acquisition. How do you do that? I mean, how do you do that when your policies exist not even in disparate systems, in different spaces and in time and place? And so what we did ultimately,
it's not a Star Trek thing. You're not going there. Were you going there? Don't go there. Don't go there.
We'll save it for later.
Okay.
So what we did for them was we said, okay, well, long term, obviously your goal is to consolidate this into one system.
Yeah.
That is a lofty goal, and there are a lot of policies that are out here, and that's going to be a challenge. So how do we solve this in the short term? So we ended up deploying our platform on top of all of their systems, interconnecting their systems together through one integration that allowed every customer, no matter what system they were located in, to include the AS400 system that they had since like 1987.
AS400, I haven't heard that in a long time.
They all had one single customer experience, because one of the most frustrating but things you see all the time for customers is when you go to click log into your policy and it says, if your policy starts with ABC, click here. If it starts with XYZ, click here.
Classic.
If it starts with 1, 2, 3, we're so sorry, you are out of luck.
Yeah.
And we really did. We brought all those together so that every one of their customers was able to have the same experience, able to log into their policy,
and build
then
brand too, right? Because
yeah,
now all of a sudden,
it was the only way they could build the brand, because they
yeah.
had to direct everybody to one spot. What that also helped with was on their renewal process, so we could provide their insureds the renewal online so they could see it, so they could renew their policy into the new system and transition. And we were along for the ride to help them bring that level of systems down to a manageable amount.
Mm-hmm.
They're still not done yet,
No,
but
no.
they'll get there.
Yeah.
And this is
Yeah.
not a story that is unique to that company. I mean, when people are even building systems over years, they get into this same kind of mess where you may not have gotten through acquisition, but you may have just done it through a project that failed and a project that succeeded and then another one. All of these need to unify the experience in some way, because if half your policyholders can't do the same thing as the other half of your policyholders, well, that's going to directly impact your brand.
Yeah.
So, Steve, let's talk a little bit then about this distribution part, you're talking a lot about customers interacting with the insurers. Are the companies you're working with also using intermediaries as part of their distribution strategy? Agencies, agents, brokers, and stuff as well. And do they fit into this sort of omni-channel approach too?
Certainly. I mean,
Or MGAs.
yeah. In fact, most of our customers distribute through agencies directly. So from an acquisitional standpoint, there's not as much to be concerned about when an agent is selling the business. But it's even more important to make sure that you're keeping that business because I came from non-standard auto originally, and let me tell you, in non-standard auto, if you let that insured go back to the agent to do anything, well, they're just selling that policy to somebody else. New business commission is much better than renewal commission, and that just happens. So it's really important to cultivate that relationship. When you're in different lines of business where you want the agent to have that front-facing relationship, that's when it comes back to this relationship augmentation. You're providing the things that you need to do, and you interact with the insureds, maybe it's claims, whatever, a good experience, and then you let the agent handle the rest of the relationship. And all these things only work if they all work together.
Right.
And giving the agent's ability to say, yes, insured, you can go here and do X, Y, and Z is a great tool for agents' customer service as well. If you're not giving them tools to be able to show their customers, like, hey, this company is good, then they are going to leave after they sell that policy. With these, these middle market carriers, that's really important where they don't maybe have brand recognition versus a Progressive or something like that.
Yeah. Hey, Steve, this has been fascinating. I want to thank you for sitting down with us.
Yeah.
Spending some time talking about things on day 2 when we're all a little weary, feet are a little sore. But
I just appreciate the chair.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. That's our value proposition. You get to sit.
That's our CX.
That's our CX. CX for interviews. But hey, have a great rest of day 2. We'll try and come by your booth and say hi and just see the team, and enjoy the party tonight.
Thanks. Yeah, absolutely. You guys too. This was great. I love it.
Thanks so much.
Thanks.